Hello and welcome to this edition of Afterthoughts, in which we'll talk further about the film Agate with filmmaker Selim Mourad. Welcome, Selim.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. We're very glad and honored to have your film as part of the Tiger competition, a film that's bold and political yet personal. Question I think we can have a great conversation about. And to start off with, I wanted to ask you, the film is part of a trilogy. It's the third part of a trilogy, right? Perhaps you can tell us a bit about the idea you started with when making this trilogy and how the works relate to each other.
It was back in 2014. I had this idea that came to me at some point during the post-production of another film of wanting to make a film where everybody, the actors and everybody inside the frame would be nude, without clothes. I felt like making a film without clothes. And then I met another person that also shared the same desire. And therefore, we started reading about different kind of theater and different kind of thoughts, philosophers, reading and writing ideas for scenes, frames, shots, etc. And we started filming with a few people around us. We were around 5 or 6 inside the house on many weekends over the course of a spring. And it was an experience with the presence of a camera. I did not really know at the time, I don't remember if I wanted this to become a film or it was just a filmed experience. It's so far away from me now. So the point is, 2 years later, I found finally somebody to help me edit the material. And it ended up being a 35-minute experimental film called Linceul 1. and and when we watched it, all of us together, it was already 2017, we felt like the work was not done and there was more to be said. Our bodies had aged a little bit, and some of us wanted to pursue the experience. And we decided to do it again in 2017. Not everybody came back. There were some problems between some actors. Some people did not want to be part of the second film. And the second film was a bit darker. It was called Cortex, in which we put lots of things we wanted out, in the film. Again, when we watched it 1 year later, especially me and Tamara Saade, who's the main actress in Agate, we felt we wanted to go further and finish the trilogy, and that's how we reached the Agate.
Thanks. And can you talk a bit more about this idea of the body in Agate? Because, well, let me put it like this. I read somewhere you talk about the trilogy as a political trilogy about the body. So I was really wondering, of course, the physicality in the body is very present in Agate as well. But it's more than showing naked bodies on screen. There is a sense of transients. There is a lot to say about that. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about the role of the body.
A sense of what? I missed the word.
Transients. Am I saying it correctly?
Okay.
Kind of coming and go, how things, well, life and death, coming and going, staying or leaving.
At some point during the beginning of the work on Agate, I found myself alone. It was me and the director of photography. And I told him, we're gonna make the film even if it were only you and me. It happened like that. There was no one around. And therefore, I finally put myself so much inside the third film. And my sort of anxieties at the time, especially regarding the health of the body, the perspective of dying, these questions were really haunting me at the time. And when I started writing and preparing, suddenly other actors who were not sure if they wanted to be in or not, joined, and suddenly there were so many people inside this third film. And this made me really happy because I could start within myself, then go and film stories here and there, pursue small narratives, and see how it all would build up towards the end of the film. So yes, there's the physicality of the body, the fear of its end, and facing that fear, but also there's this main problematic of um, wanting to stay inside a community that is not anymore existing or moving on. Because you can see in the film the character of Eli, for example, who's the guy Selim and Tamara and Francois go visit to make an interview, and he's a stone kind of person. He works with iron, etc. He's somebody who was there since film one inside the community and did not want to change. He would still be nude till the last day, living alone, a sort of hermit, while maybe other characters would want out of this kind of close circle, close community living inside the house. So there's the people who move on and the people who like to stay in things the way they were. So this is a question that was really dear to me and to Tamara during the process. And eventually, as I was editing the film, the idea came to me that this could represent, in a way, the two kinds of people that are actually the problematic we have in Lebanon right now, because it's been a year that a lot of young people are emigrating. They're leaving the country because we've been having one catastrophe after the other since the end of 2019, and in many ways it's unlivable here, but maybe it's also this way in other parts of the world. We had a massive semi-nuclear explosion back in August, and an economic catastrophe. We have an inflation times 6. We're almost, we're having the same trouble as Venezuela now, in a way. On top of all this, there's COVID. So people are leaving. And I was talking with a professor in university a few weeks ago telling me he can't stop signing papers of release of students emigrating. We're having a huge leaving in Lebanon right now. So in a way, there's this in the film: who wants to stay and who wants to go and move on, even though it's so between the lines.
No, that was exactly what I wanted to ask you about. Thank you very much for that answer. Many things I want to ask you after this. Maybe one to pick up on is if you can tell us a little bit about your working process, because I'm very curious as well as how you speak now, how certain events feed into what's reflected in the film. It doesn't sound like you write a script and go to set, but you bring together a wonderful combination of texts, of sounds, of images, creating your cinema. But can you talk to us a bit about your working process?
When I was working on this film, or these 3 films, I always thought this is the cinema that resembles me, really. That's the kind of cinema that I want to make if I had no producer, nobody asking for the film, if I would just be making it for me. So I did not really expect to actually someday screen this film in Rotterdam. This is huge for me. I'm so happy, because I thought I'm making my small films with my teacher's salary in a way, and I'm writing a regular feature to someday find budget for it. It's like my creative mind was divided into 2. The films that I can make myself without any kind of demand or expectation on the form, and other kinds of films where I would express things I want to say, but in a more regular form. So when I finally saw that finally somebody is interested in watching and listening to cinema the way I would make it without any rule or pressure from any sort of inner or outside party. This made me happy. So yeah, I like making films where I have some thoughts of a narrative before, some ideas, some images in mind, but not being heavy loaded by a script written over many years and that I don't almost feel like filming anymore. So in the case of Agate Mousse, also, there were, of course, some characters that I was following since previous work, but also there was this forest that I discovered next to a friend's house, and I knew I wanted this time to go outside the house and film in that forest. There was this guy, Eli, who showed me the stones, and that really left an impression on me, the sentence that he told me during the pre-production, that you can see inside the Agate Mousse a look of a vegetable or vegetal world, but in fact it's not, it's mineral. This stayed with me, and I knew for some reason it was the center of this film, of this project, and I can't really explain why. If it's related to some appearance not being what it is, or it was by itself a form, this stone, and I felt like the movie or the film should resemble this stone, even in its circular form, in its in the way there's a forest inside of it, but there's also other things. I'm a bit drifting, but I hope I answered you. And I was interested by this actor who plays the role of Francois because I love his face, and I wanted this face to be in the film. And therefore, I made him meet Tamara, the other actress, and see what kind of couple would they make on screen, if it would work or not, etc. In the psychologist scene, it's all improvised. They're really creating the dialogue as they go, based on the scenes we had shot before that scene. So yes, there's a lot of improvisation, some guidelines, and big research on framing and mise en scène, how to place people in a way inside the frame and then let them be.
Yeah, that's great. And out of this improvisation or letting things spontaneously or semi-spontaneously happen in front of the camera, is there a moment you can recall that was such an amazing surprise that you're so happy that made it to the film, but that you couldn't have thought of before or in advance?
I'm gonna start by saying what comes to mind, and if a real surprise comes along, I will tell you. A few days before shooting, there's an extra scene that came to me that was not there at the beginning, which is the flashback from Eli's childhood, which is that's only 4 shots long, where we see him sitting nude in the center of an electric children's train with his grandfather figure taking pictures of him, and his grandmother maybe trying to call him out, but not really insisting on it. I knew throughout the whole preparation that I wanted this sentence, Eli, please come. Eli, please come, to be heard, as if somebody's calling him from another room, but that was it. And then just before the shoot, I wanted to see the grandmother and see the grandfather. And for me, it was a horror kind of scene. It really frightens me. I can't really interpret it, but I knew it had to be there. Another surprise is finding the angle in the 2 girls dancing scene. I wanted to film them from a certain angle. It was not working. Just at the end of the shoot's day, I knew that I had to show the silhouette of Francois looking at the two girls dancing, and this made the scene work for me because suddenly it was all seen, SEEN, through the eyes of this jealous boyfriend looking at the girl he's interested in dancing with somebody else, and a girl on top of this, a world that he cannot enter. So these were things that surprised me a bit before the shoot and during the shoot itself.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And it's something I also was curious about is that in the film, at a certain point, it said that a camera might help you understand something along those lines. But is that also true for you? Is that part of why you film?
Good question. The process of editing itself, when I'm with somebody and looking at the shots I've taken and trying to piece them together, makes me realize lots of things. Yes, I discover meaning, I link things together. It's like going on a journey, following images inside the mind and trying to capture them, and then coming back to put them together and then see what it was all about. So in that sense, yes, there is a sort of filming to find meaning in a way.
Thanks. And as a final question, in the film, there's a lot of references to filmmaking as a process, but also art and other artists. I was wondering, are there specific artists or filmmakers that have inspired you while making Agate mousse?
Yes, there was one photographer called Francois Sargologo that I even mentioned in the film. I had gone to his exhibition in Beirut and was really thrilled and amazed by the kind of photography on zinc. It's really a mixture of chemical processes that he does using zinc surfaces with old photographies on them, and he displayed them in a circular form. This really touched me to the core. I felt there's a sacred aspect to the circular form, which suddenly could not leave my mind because I'm so used to watching films, with angles. And I remember all those paintings that I sometimes see in museums. There are not numerous, where the circular form exudes a sort of spirituality or a sort of longing for another world that was important for me. So this stayed in the film. As filmmakers, I'm trying to remember fast now. Yes, the final sequence where there's a radio, and we discovered that all the radio part was actually pre-recorded. Even though I haven't seen the film again while preparing Agate mousse, gave me a hint of Red by Kieslowski, this radio place with a man there and visited by the wonderful actress in the film. There was something from that world. And in a general sense, the presence of the radio and the sound that is not here, maybe also David Lynch.
Wonderful references. Well, with that, our conversation is coming to an end for now. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Selim, and thank you as well to the audience for watching our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for Rotterdam Festival and for the audience and for you.